Nourishing the mind, body, and soul for the Asian diaspora. Have you eaten? Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Have You Eaten? This is a series where we highlight the intricate connections between wellness, mental health, and the multifaceted layers of our Asian diaspora community. And by amplifying these voices and experiences, we seek to empower, reclaim agency, and reshape narratives. And I am so excited to have Thao French with us today. Thao is an artist from San Diego, and we recently met, and I just adore her work and everything that she stands for. So welcome, Thao.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And, I've been going through your works, all the murals that you've done, and God, they're incredible, like beautiful. And I noticed, that you paint a lot of flowers. Yeah. So I'm just curious, just to start off, tell us, tell us how you identify. And then I want to dive into talking about your work. I just think it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I paint. Oh, well, let's start with introductions. My name is Thao French. I identify as she, her, hers, and I'm a Vietnamese American artist, muralist, and photographer. I do a lot of activism work. A lot of my artwork, I do paint tons of flowers, and I incorporate a lot of flowers. Those are the things that I have found to provide me with a lot of joy and connection with my family. And so, growing up with my grandmother and my mom, like planting flowers and gardening, it just really resonates with me. And so that's like the one of the few things that I have left that I can paint to sort of feel more connected with them.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you grow up in the States?
Yeah.
Or tell us about that journey.
I was born in Cameron Bay and migrated to the Philippines. My family and I were processed as refugees at the Southeast Asian Refugee Processing Center in Bataan, Philippines. And we moved to the States when I was like 3 or 4.
Mm.
We lived in North Dakota for a little bit, but we moved to Fresno, California, and that's where I grew up mostly. I've been living in San Diego for about 14 years though.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you immigrated here the same age I was. So for me, it's like I don't really know any other home other than here. Is that how you feel? Like where would if someone asked you where's home, like where would you say that is?
Um, it's kind of a complicated answer. I've never really felt like I belonged anywhere, to be quite honest. Home, home is where the heart is. Just kidding. I wanted to be a little corny. No, I'm actually in the process of discovering that now. So
Yeah.
I feel different when I'm in Vietnam. I got to go back last year for the first time, and that was a truly life changing experience. I feel the most comfortable when I'm at my own house, to be honest.
Mm,
So
like your own
I go.
space. Yeah. So tell us about when you went to Vietnam. Like what was the feeling? Like what was life changing about being there? And how long was it between you being there and going back?
I hadn't gone back since I left at the age of 3. So,
Oh wow.
and I was always fed these stories that it's a dangerous place and
Mm,
our extended family are not good people and you shouldn't reach out to them. So there was always these like rumors and stories that circulated. And so I had a very like undefined, ambiguous like perspective with what Vietnam looked like. And so when I went back, I totally had culture shock. I learned the term Viet Q for the first time. Viet Q means you're a Vietnamese living abroad, and I didn't realize that there was a term for us. And so when I went back home, I would always be asked like, "Are you Viet Q?" And then they would ask, are you Vietnamese American or Vietnamese Australian? Because I guess that's where a lot of Vietnamese diaspora is. And I was like, oh, American and oh, California. And they're like, oh, you look more like Australian Vietnamese. And I was like, what is
What
that?
does that even mean?
But I did get charged double at some places just for being VidQ.
Oh my gosh.
Discrimination tax.
Oh my gosh. I was wondering, did you find family or did you go to visit family or what was the trip
To be
for?
honest, it was 2022 December when I had booked my flight, and I was just like, I was having some beers, and I was like, maybe it's time. You know, when you're just having those like drunk thoughts, you're like, it's time to go. And so I
Mm,
booked my flight on a whim, and I didn't have any plans. I just wanted to go back and see it for myself. And when I did
yeah.
finally go, I had invited a couple of friends to meet me out there, and they did. Surprisingly, I'm like, that's a long way to meet up with a friend to go have some food. But
Oh, that's
we ended
awesome.
up having a really good time. And what I discovered was there's a ton of foreigners living in Vietnam. So there's districts that are dedicated just to expats. There's a ton of Europeans that live there, Koreans, Japanese. Um, they do business there and they also live there. And, um, just to see how like evolved it is in comparison to what your parents painted
Hmm.
for you. And so I was like, Mom, it's different. They're so innovative here, and it's like a clash between modern and old school, because you still have those like old school stalls and street vendors and that Vietnam nostalgia that you
Yeah.
would picture. And then there's this like other side to it that, there's like a tattoo, rap music, industry and scene that's emerging. There's Chicano culture in Vietnam out of like, how crazy is that? And yeah, it's such a magical place. Like it totally captivates you when you get there. And all I wanted to do was just like eat and meet people and paint. And I did get to paint a mural while I was there. I just met some French people who own this like art and food and beer spot. And I was like, I would love to paint for you. And now we're like really good friends, and we haven't lost touch since.
That's awesome. Wait, I want to go back to a word that you said when you and I don't know if you heard yourself say this, but when you were talking about going back to Vietnam, you said, okay, it's time to go home.
Oh yeah, totally. I think my heart is definitely like with Vietnam, and it always will be. Just when I was there, I was a very emotional. Like just, I remember this one moment. I was taking a shower and I could smell someone cooking garlic, and and there's like this background noise conversation in Vietnamese, and it just like got me so emotional. It reminded.
Mhm. What was it like living here with your family? Like, because I'm kind of seeing this picture of you growing up and planting flowers with your family, and then how that shows up in your artwork. Um, and I'm wondering, like, and we talked about belonging and not feeling like you really belong unless you're like in your home. So I was just curious, like, what was it like growing up, as a little kid, not feeling like you belonged here? And the reason why I asked that too is I felt very similarly. Like, I remember the first time someone said, "Gook, go back home." I was 5, and I just remember thinking, like, I don't understand why this guy wants me to go back to my apartment right now. Like, I didn't know, like, what he was talking, and then I didn't know what gook meant, and so my dad had to explain it to me at 5 years old. I'm like, "But I don't understand. Why does he want us to go back to our apartment?" And my dad's like, "No, no, no, no. That's not where he wants us to go." But I remember, thinking like, "But this is my home." And I remember even, as a teenager or even as a young adult thinking, "But this is my home," but also feeling like I didn't belong. And that's a weird feeling.
Yeah, totally. Not having that sense of belonging as a child can really mess with you as an adult. And I think that's why I'm steering so hard into trying to find out where I come from and documenting my refugee story and exploring my cultural roots. So I'm learning all about who I am, where I come from in real time.
Yeah. And how does that show up in your work? Because I feel like I see it, but I would love for you to talk about it.
I think for the Vietnamese American experience side of my life, my mom definitely wanted to leave a lot of Vietnam behind, and so
Mm-hmm.
we tried to blend in quite a bit. And so there's these, you know, it's tough to talk about, but I there are moments of joy that I hold dear to, and that's the gardening, that's the being around the plants, and that's why you see a lot of flowers in my work, because these family photographs that I still have, they're like us, little us, like my mom young in her dresses posing in front of flowers. And so I find that so endearing, and I love to be able to continue to incorporate that into my work, no matter what the theme is. There's always going to be some flowers or plants in my work. And then there's the side of the food, that makes me feel much like feel loved and feel connected to my family. And, being refugees and coming here without anything, and filled with trauma and
Mm-hmm.
generational trauma, and just living in poverty, I think that it shows up in the way that we interact with each other. And it shows up with, I witnessed a lot of like abuse. I endured a lot of abuse. And it still shows up in my relationships especially with the women in my family today. So my childhood, I would say, it was very turbulent, but it had such a contrast. There was like these moments of escapism and joy, and, what family actually means to me. And then there's like this other side, this like dark side that I never really talk about, because I feel like such an alien when I talk about it. I feel like nobody would relate. Like, I feel like our family is so wildly different and mean and cruel sometimes, and I feel like that is so non-relatable to anybody else. I do remember bringing up like, oh, your family is going over to my white friend's house for sleepovers. I'm like, wow, you guys like talk to each other, and like I would watch the dynamics between like the mom and the daughter, and like when the daughter did something bad and the mom was like, kind of going through like, hey, that wasn't right. And but being able to kind of get through the other side, with civility. And I'm like, what is that? That's so crazy, to like witness something like that. And I just remember feeling like so foreign to it.
Yeah.
And
I could relate to that 100%. I remember thinking when growing up, like, what, you're not going to get your ass beat right now? Like, what? What's happening?
yeah, I do have a lot of those memories too, where you do something, like wrong, but not enough to justify an ass whooping. And
Yep.
you go to your friend's house, you see that happen over there, and you're like, wait, I would have gotten my ass kicked. And you just got like, hey, that wasn't okay. Can we have a hug now? And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. You
Yeah,
guys do that over here? So yeah, I could go
totally.
down this road with you if you want to. But
Oh
my
my
childhood
God.
was like that. So I used art and a lot of other things, like, being around plants and like being in sports, watching TV, like steering really into the imaginative side, because that form of escapism was like really important to me. It made me, it was a form of therapy, I think.
Yeah.
But
How old were you when you started painting and doing art?
I would say as early as I could pick up a pen. Yeah. So like kindergarten.
Oh, wow. And would you say that, so when you were in kindergarten versus now, like the escapism, the purpose of art as a little kid, would you say changed as you grew older? Because it seems like a lot of your art right now, at least the recent ones, are very, there's so much emotion into them. So there's this like, some of them I noticed there's this contrast of this very like powerful, like there's some, very definite like power in them. And then there's like these beautiful flowers surrounding it. And I'm wondering if that's your way of, I don't know. Tell me about that because I have my own opinions about why you do that, but I'm just curious.
I like to use a lot of themes that contrast each other because it forms balance for me. I
Mm,
think the feminine, like the femininity and the masculine, like elements in my work go very, like, the sharp lines, the high contrast with the black and the whites. I love depicting things like that because I am constantly feeling a spectrum of emotions. Like I'm sad and I'm happy, and I've gone through really awful times, but I want to emphasis on the victories and like the moments of happiness. And so I think naturally like those themes and those like emotions show up in my work.
yeah. I was thinking, the fact that like we as humans are just not, nothing's like linear, right? Like healing isn't linear, like pain isn't linear. Like you can't have happiness without sadness. And so when I look at your work, I think of the holistic like picture of what you might be going through or what might be going through your mind, which isn't like linear. It's like there's so many different parts to us, and that's the other thing about being Asian American too, is we're not a monolith. And we say that a lot. And so our experiences are very unique, but also similar in so many ways, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, I think my experience is definitely a lot different than my friends' experiences. But you're right, there are a ton of similarities, and these similarities are oftentimes we emphasize like the bad parts. Oh, that's what we have in common. Like this type of
Mhm.
trauma is what we have in common. Oh, your mom's like this too, or your relationship with Asian women is like this too. Like, and to be fair, I mean, this is the first time in my life I've ever felt supported by Asian women. And I think like
Mm,
that's breaking the side. That's like a true sign of like us breaking the cycle of generational trauma because to to be honest, growing up, I've just seen women just at each other all the time, like
mm,
criticizing each other, fighting, tearing each other down. Like, where's the encouragement, love, and nurturement that we all need in order to feel confident and really proud to be who we are?
yeah. Yeah. Did your family also, were they also really blunt? Like I always tell people like, um, I get my bluntness from my family just because they didn't know how to couch anything. But it was like their way of showing their care. It's kind of like, it's like, have you eaten? Right? It's like, you're not saying I love you, but but that's basically what it means. It's like, I care about you. Like, I want you to have your tummy filled, you know? And so there were times when my dad would say, like, it's so mad. He would say, oh, you're so fat. And then he would try to couch that later on in life, being like, oh, you must be so happy because you've eaten so much. And I'm like, okay, he's trying, but it's not quite there. And I just found that my family had a really hard time talking about emotions. And so the way that they did it was this like blunt, like, I'm just going to tell you how it is because I care about you kind of way. And I'm just curious if you can relate to that.
Oh, yeah. We did not talk about our feelings growing up. We expressed them through, I don't know, toxic behavior and food, like
And food.
let's talk about the good stuff too. I know that a lot of us have been through so much, and it's important that we talk about that. And we do also set like really strong boundaries now, because that's important to me. I'm
Yes.
learning, oh, that's codependency nature when you're like
Mm.
uh, be to manage other people's lives, like get offering advice when it's not offered, trying to help and forcing that help down someone's like throat. That's codependency nature, and I'm trying to unlearn a lot of those habits that I'm learning from my parents too. But now it's different because I'm setting up these boundaries. I'm having these honest conversations with my mom. And for example, we've always like cut each other off. I've always been the one to get kicked out of the house, and until I didn't come back for a long time, and then now she does these cutoffs with me. She'll hang up the phone if the conversation gets a little bit too intense. On my
Mm.
end, this is where like our well, I don't really know how to explain it, but my mom is Vietnamese dominant speaking. I'm English dominant speaking. So sometimes my context is aggressive for her, and her Vietnamese is aggressive for me sometimes.
Mhm.
So I feel like we're growing kind of apart because of this language barrier. And it wasn't always that way. Vietnamese was my first language. But now what's happening is we're actually she's actually telling me what it is that I'm doing that's bothering her, which she's never done.
Mm.
She's saying, well, when you talk to me like this, it really upsets me and it makes me feel this way. And here's why. Because when I was
Oh,
a
wow.
child, yeah, she's actually looking inward and figuring and actually expressing to me like where the roots of these traumas are coming from for her, and that's what's triggering her. I'm like, oh wow, mom's like expressing her triggers right now, and she's like figuring out where it comes from.
That's
That's
huge.
huge. So that happened pretty recently, like past month, I would say. And I feel like I've grown enough, through a lot of work with self help books and going to therapy and a ton of other things. And I'm figuring out like, oh, my reactions are actually not healthy either. Like, it's okay for me to feel angry and sad and depressed and these things, and like how I react has everything to do with like like am I being healthy with the way that I'm communicating my emotions? And when I express myself when I'm angry, is it in a way that is harming other people? Because it could come from the
Uh,
tone, or it could be, I don't know, like the cutoffs thing is so common too. But if we're not using communication and we're just choosing to create more conflict, then that's when it becomes incredibly unhealthy. And then, you have to ask yourself, the way that the way that I'm communicating, is it effective? Is it actually the thing I
mhm.
want? And so I'm like learning all of this right now, like all at once. And I'm realizing even when my mom is triggering me, I don't actually have to react to it. I can express my myself differently, so she understands, oh yeah, maybe that doesn't make my daughter feel good. So maybe we
Yeah.
shouldn't go there. Maybe we shouldn't talk about people's bodies,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're breaking the cycle is what I'm hearing, and also this idea of understanding other people too. So not in a codependent way, but in a way that's understanding, right? Like when your mom expressed that, what's triggering her, and then thinking through too, like this is where my forgiveness for my dad happened was when I realized that he also was a little boy he also went through stuff. He also had a lot of dreams that didn't come to reality. And this understanding, and it's no way excusing people's behavior, or you don't have to accept their responses, but having that understanding and that curiosity of the people that hurt you, it made my triggers less, because it was less about me and it was more about, okay, how are they dealing with things? But yeah, I love that story about your mom. And, even though like it's later in life, like the fact that it's happening is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've always been a huge believer of people and their transformations. I think that you don't always have to engage in toxic relationships. You can walk away if that is the best decision for you, if too many lines are being crossed. But
Absolutely.
you guys can, and we can come back together when the time is right, when we're both like at a place where we could meet each other in the middle somehow. I think what we need to normalize too is not making enemies out of each other just because we
Mm,
agree on certain issues. Like with my family, it's like I was saying earlier, we're really different, especially with the way that we fight. So these small breakthroughs that I'm having with my mom, they feel massive to me. They feel like, gosh,
mm,
these are moments of magic, and like what's to come. Like this is just the beginning. Like what is there to come? Can we start taking trips together, because we've never done that before? A lot of people get to do that with their families. I don't, because we fight. We can't spend more than 3 hours together without someone's feelings getting hurt. And so how do we prevent that, or not even prevent that by like walking on eggshells, but like how do we actually discuss what's really going on, so we can move
right.
past it and let go of this anger.
Right. You haven't talked about your father. I'm just curious, like, what's your relationship there like? Is it similar or is it different?
Well, I don't have a relationship with my dad. Growing up, he was there, but just as like an entity, like not really as a person that I had a good relationship with. And I think, is this common with most Asian dads? Like, I don't know, very surface level, very transactional based relationships where like we would ask him for money or new school clothes. My parents were divorced when I was 11, I believe, and that was awful. There was just a lot going on there. So when my parents divorced, my well, let me take it back a little bit. My dad knocked up my mom's best friend, and that's why they got divorced. And
Oof.
what's crazy about this story is that I just had an ancestry DNA test last year, because my mom had asked me to like kind of help her find her biological father. She's half white, and my yeah, I'm not gonna take it way back, but my mom thought she found her biological father about 20 something years ago, and he denied having anything to do with her, but the resemblance is so striking.
Wow.
And just recent, like in the past year and a half, my mom asked me to do the ancestry DNA with her, and so we all did. And we got connected with a bunch of Canadian people and European people, and yeah, I have a ton
Oh,
of
wow.
cousins in Vietnam, and I have a cousin who's French in Montauk. I don't. Anyways, I digress. But my mom and I have been trying to find her biological father together, and on my results, I see my half sister's name pop up. Like we've always kind of knew about her, but we'd never.
Yeah.
And so she reached out to me on Instagram just last year after I had painted in Hawaii. And she said, that I saw your name on Ancestry DNA. I feel like it's safe enough for me to reach out to you. And so we started talking, and we finally met like in October of last year. Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
wow.
crazy story. And then from my half sister, I find out that she's never seen my our dad's face. So on Father's Day, she like messaged me and asked for a picture of him. And so I asked my family if we could forward a picture of him to Amy. And so we did. And so she finally got to see his face for the first time. So I guess
Oh
we
my
did that for her
gosh.
too.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that vulnerable story. And like, whew, yeah, growing up, my dad was in the military. And I mean, you think of all the stereotypical military fathers. That's basically what it was. But yeah, so um, my mom actually left. Um, and so we have kind of a flip flop story. So my mom left when I was 4. Last time I had contact with her, I was 5. And it's so funny you bring up ancestry because I just thought, so through my years, I went back and forth of whether or not I wanted to find her. And I've just recently determined that I'm going to go look for her. And ancestry came up in my mind actually literally this morning, which is crazy. But yeah, just to switch gears a little bit, I'm really excited to, like, we haven't met IRL in person in real life. And I'm so excited to meet you in person next weekend, right? It's coming up soon, the 15th.
so I hope that before we jump forward, I hope that your journey, you're doing a lot of you're taking care of yourself throughout that process of trying to rediscover and reconnect. Because as I went through my process and my journey with trying to reach out and trying to figure out, like, keep putting the pieces of our family tree together, it started
Yeah.
to trigger people in my family, and
Oh,
it turned into a big fight. And yeah, and so I'm tabling it for now. And so I have had to deal with a lot of mental health issues since. So I hope that you are taking care as you do
thank you.
reconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, so my father passed away, 3 years ago. And so there's no, but he was actually supportive. Back in 2007, I took a trip to Korea. That was the last time I was there. And, I spent about a week and a half in the town where my mom, was born and raised. And I didn't I couldn't get up to knocking on the door. And who knows if they still live there or not. They might not have, but I found the house and everything. And I just walked by it every single day and I didn't do it. But I think now I'm at a point in my life where honestly, I just want to know the story. I've heard so many stories from my dad's side. And so I just want to hear her story. I want to know, like, yeah, for me, I just want to hear the story of, and I have no animosity towards her anymore. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm not any of those things. It's more about like, I just want to know. I just want to know what happened. And everybody's story is different. You always say there's 3 sides to a story: his, hers, and the truth. And that's just kind of where my head is, and just the curiosity of where do I come from?
Yeah, I I can definitely relate to that. Um, when I went back to Vietnam last year, and I did meet some family, I met my aunt who I've been writing letters to since I was a kid, but we stopped abruptly. And ever
Mm.
since, I've been told about how she's not a good person and things like that. And so my mom reached out to my aunt, connected us. We met up. I flew to Cam Bay, where I was born, met her, and had the best time. Got to listen to
Mhm.
her versions of the stories and upbringings, although I will say she was very held back with a lot of them and was trying to reinforce this idea, like, we forgive each other, we forgive each other. So I'm like, what happened? Um, but yeah, just that rediscovery, what I'm learning is that I don't know everything. So be open to it all as it comes, and it's only going to help shape your perspective as life as you age, because people are
Yeah.
people, and I'm a human being. I've made mistakes. My mom, if I had gone through the same things my mom has gone through, which is a lot and very sad and messed up, I'd probably be as angry as she was too. And
Yeah.
I'd be closed off as much as she is, maybe even worse. I don't know. Um, but I'm starting to forgive and learning how to do so through compassion and empathy, looking at them as if they are human beings too, not just these
Yeah.
individuals that messed me up when I was a kid or whatever, because
Yeah.
that mentality just doesn't serve me. It
Right.
helps me hold on to a lot of hurt, and that doesn't work.
Right. And then the thought that like everyone just does the best that they can with what they have. And, unfortunately, the generations before us, therapy wasn't something that was talked about openly, or mental health or wellness or any of that kind of stuff. Right. So yeah, they had what they had and they did what they could with what they had. Um, that's, yeah, the empathy and compassion, definitely important. Um, ooh.
Wait, are we on the first episode of Hello Happy?
No, this is probably going to be the second episode that's going to go live.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love having these conversations because it just goes back to the idea that there's so many things that are not the same but also the same, and the idea of like empathy, compassion, curiosity. I mean, those are all so important, not only for us finding self-love and our own healing, but also putting that out into the world where I don't know, it's just different. Like you look at different, the lens of which you look at things through is different with compassion and empathy.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah, you
yeah.
take things a lot less personally.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Gosh, how do I transition from this to
So you haven't met in real life, like you were saying. You talked
yes,
about
yes.
reconnecting with your mom. I wanted to bring us back because I wanted to sort of just, add a little something for you as you move
Thank you.
forward.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna documenting my
Oh,
process.
yay. I would love to hear
Yeah.
about it. Maybe I can interview you next.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But okay, I want to hear about this piece that you're going to bring. So, can you tell the audience a little bit about what we're doing on the 15th of June?
Yeah, so the for that's next Saturday. It's going to be just a 1 day AAPI fair or AAPI day at the San Diego County Fair in Del Mar. I'm going to be creating an 8x8 mural installation, live painting it at the fair, and I'm going to be creating an activity at the AARP table, which who is sponsoring this event, by the way. We're going to be inviting people of all ages to come up to the table to create their own dragon scales. So we'll have paint and colors and glitter and whatever for them to decorate. And we're going to incorporate each scale onto the dragon that I'm going to be painting. So I'll leave that area, the scales blank, and then we'll just have everybody contribute to it at the fair. And then Hello Happy, you and Riri are going to create an activity as well with paper cranes.
Yeah, yeah, we're excited to be part of it, and so like grateful to have been introduced to each other. I actually met some AARP marketing folks in Texas last week. And I mean, I don't know if you've met the ones in San Diego, but if they're like half as fun as the ones that I met in Texas, like we're going to have a good time.
Yeah,
Let me tell you.
you're gonna love them. Have you met anybody
Yeah.
from that organization here locally? Yeah.
Mm-mm, no, but one of the women took a selfie and sent it to Tiffany, I think her name is. that's going to be at the event.
Yeah, Tiffany's awesome.
Yeah.
Tiffany has been like such a beacon of light in my life. I met
Oh.
her at the Day of Remembrance for the Atlanta spa shooting victims at the VA Museum. I had put together a live painting event there, painting flowers as an offering. And we met that day and kept in touch. And then because she works at ARP, this is why relationships are so incredibly important. She came back like 2 years later with an opportunity for me to paint for the AAPI community for her organization. And
That's
so
awesome.
since then, we launched that December of last year. And since then, we've come back to work on this project together. So it's so great to have like connections that want to help you succeed and vice versa and listen to your ideas. This is going to be a really great relationship for you to have. Um, this organization just really wants you to win.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. And I want to do a shout out to Daphne Kwok. That's the woman that I met in Texas. I mean, she's so fun. I was like, I can't wait. I can't wait. Like I said, if the ladies in San Diego are half as fun, like it's just going to be a good
You
day.
should
I'm
invite
so
them
excited.
both.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, our time is running out. But I like, gosh, the stuff that you shared with us today, beautiful, and just the message of, compassion and empathy and like being in the other person's shoes, that's part of it, right? Um, and the healing and the work that you're doing and the way that you're doing it is just so admirable. And I love everything about your artwork. Like I am so in love with like all the colors and just the emotions. And like I said, when I see like the differing kind of contrasts in your work, I can see how that's such a representative of being a human being,
I,
you
I love
know?
that interpretation. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think what I would like to add to that is if you take a closer look at my work, it's there's a lot of imperfections and a lot of abstract nature to it. And I think that because my work largely depends on imperfections, um, to have the look that it has, I think it also speaks to the imperfections of life and the imperfections of the journey to wherever you're trying to go. So
yeah,
like just embrace it.
I love that. So please come out and visit us on Saturday, June 15th, the Del Mar AAPI Day at the San Diego County Fair. You'll find Thao, our friends at AARP, and Hello Happy in a row together. So if you find one of us, you'll find the rest of us. And yeah, come hang out, come play with us, come put some dragon scales on the mural, make some cranes with us. We'll have some fun activities and some giveaways from our product sponsors that we're really excited to announce soon. And yeah, and then until next time. Oh, before we go to how can people find you? Like where can they see your work? Like where can they find you?
Oh, it's just mainly Instagram right now. I don't know how I've gotten by without a website, but I'm like, nobody visits your website. They'll just go to your Instagram. So Tao French Art, that's Thao French Art on Instagram.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you
All
so much
right.
for having
Well,
me.
folks, yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for being you and sharing all that you did with us. And until next time, this is Ji Bowlus with Hello Happy and Have You Eaten? And until we meet again, hope your stomach and your heart stay full. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello, Happy Fam. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. And until next time, I hope your bellies and your hearts stay full.